So, Oppenheimer is finally out in theaters and IMAX screens alike, and if you want to know if Christopher Nolan's latest IMAX extravaganza is worth checking out on the big square, this may be the most obvious review I've ever made in my entire life, but let's get into it. Hello friends, and welcome back to the Brockopp side, a place to live, talk, and buy movies. And real quick, as usual, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this movie as well, so go ahead and comment down below your experience checking out Oppenheimer. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you have the Barbenheimer double feature as well? Which one did you see first, huh? You see Barbie, you see Oppenheimer first. No judgment either way. I just want to know. Okay? But without further ado, let's start talking about the movie. Now, I've seen this movie a couple times so far, and I think that it is quite possibly Christopher Nolan's best movie to date. The way he takes the true story of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project and tells it on such a grand scale that expertly blends drama, spectacle, and straight-up horror elements at times just had me leaving the theater going, wow. Cillian Murphy delivers the best performance of his career, someone who Nolan has worked with many times in the past, including Scarecrow in the Dark Knight trilogy, but this is the first time that Cillian Murphy gets a leading role. The movie is a character study of the father of the atomic bomb, with Murphy front and center. The way he just tells a complete story with his eyes alone, whether he's lecturing at a university or just reflecting on the horrors of his creation, it was just fantastic. You can feel the toll the Manhattan Project took on him, especially afterwards when the US basically tried to discredit him. That's a real oversimplification of events, but this movie is 3 hours and there's a lot to unpack. But everybody in the cast is fantastic, so many recognizable faces, from Emily Blunt to Robert Downey Jr., Jack Quaid, to even Josh Peck. No matter how big or how small the roles were, everybody in this movie really got to shine and brought their A game, especially Robert Downey Jr. as Lewis Strauss, who, let's just say it's clear that Robert Downey Jr. really liked having some strong material to work with. Now, pretty much everything else I want to praise about this movie can wait a good, few more seconds. With everything I just briefly described to you, how does all of that translate into IMAX? The big square, the thing people keep coming back to this channel for because you like it when I talk about the movies on the big square. Alright, first things first. Christopher Nolan does not mess around when it comes to IMAX. Most of the movies we talk about on this channel are movies that were shot on digital cameras that were approved for the IMAX screen. There is none of that shit here. This movie was shot on genuine 70mm IMAX film cameras, including the IMAX Mark III and Mark IV. Now that's what I'm talking about! On a quick side note, I got to see this movie Tuesday night at an advanced screening where that was shown in 70mm. Not IMAX 70mm, but a standard size screen in 70mm, which that was a cool way to experience the movie for the first time, but let me tell you, that standard 70mm does not do the movie justice. When I saw the movie in IMAX last night, it was like watching it for the first time all over again. Of course, you get your scenes filmed in the 2:3:9 aspect ratio, but then a great majority of the movie opens up to 1:9:0, and if you are really lucky and you get to see it in IMAX 70mm, it'll even open up to 1:4:3. Oh, I could die happy now. The IMAX was used so damn beautifully, capturing not only the incredible establishing shots of Los Alamos and these great pieces of architecture, but just simple things like Oppenheimer walking down a hallway. It just brought this sense of gravitas to every frame with so much depth and detail. This is also the first time ever that black and white IMAX film has been used for a movie like this, and it was developed specifically for this movie. Now, I'm sure everybody watching this video right now wants to know, what was it like in the Trinity test detonation when the atomic bomb went off, set a bunch of flames into the air? What was that moment like? It's the one thing that everybody's been hyping up for months, and it's like, oh, I cannot wait to see that specific part in IMAX. I want to feel the flames on my skin and walk out of the theater with radiation poisoning. And, simply put, Have you ever just gone out at first light, looked upon a beautiful mountain range, took in the atmosphere and went, this is sublime? There you go. Nolan is famous for his strong use of practical effects and has bragged that Oppenheimer has no CGI shots whatsoever. Somehow they recreated the atomic blast without using an actual atomic bomb and killing the entire crew. And man, when this thing detonates, time just stands completely still. You get to soak in the beauty and the horror of this creation. There was not one single sound made in the theater. It was just a moment of collective awe and wonder. It's one of those rare movies that was shot specifically on IMAX film that just takes 110% advantage of the format. And that is without discussing the sound design whatsoever. I'm gonna be straight up with you. If this movie does not win the Oscar for Best Sound Design next year, then something is wrong. It was just used so effectively in moments beyond the blast itself. It really lends to the horror elements, like I mentioned before, where Oppenheimer starts having visions of the blast, where elements of the sound just cut out, isolating certain ones, followed by the boom of the explosion, really just puts you inside of his mind in those moments. It's all tied together by Ludwig Göransson's incredible score, which can go from triumphant to anxiety-inducing in a split second. Let's wrap this up, shall we? Overall, Oppenheimer is Chris Nolan at his absolute finest. He managed to take a very dialogue-heavy historical drama and turn it into a blockbuster spectacle that you need to check out on the biggest screen possible. Do I even need to answer the question whether or not you should check this out in IMAX? Well, I'm going to anyway. Yes, 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 1,000 times. Yes. And what I'm gonna say to you right now, I mean this completely as your friend. If you go and see this movie in the theater, but you do not see it in IMAX, you're a fool. So now I've seen this movie twice in both standard 70mm and in digital IMAX, and come Saturday, which is tomorrow at the time of recording this, I'm going to be driving 3 hours to go check it out in 70mm IMAX, which is the truest of true IMAX you can get. So hopefully there should be a video out about that experience by the end of the weekend, so look out for that. So for the movie itself, I'm going to give it a gold unboxing machete, and for the IMAX, I'm obviously going to give it a gold unboxing machete. But if you want to see my thoughts on another movie in IMAX, I got just the thing right over here. Otherwise, subscribe if you live talking by movies, and we'll see you on the Brockopp side.